In the scorching desert west of the Nile, a mountain of stone has been defying death for 46 centuries. Earthquakes have shaken it. Thieves have gutted it. Conquerors have tried to dismantle it. It does not care. For most of human civilization, this was the tallest structure on Earth. Nothing else came close. The ancient Egyptians did not build this for tourists or posterity. They built it to house a god. Today, we crack open 3 scientific theories about how they pulled off the impossible. But first, we need to travel back to a time when Egypt was the center of the world. This is Khufu, Pharaoh, absolute ruler of the wealthiest civilization on the planet, and he has a problem. Khufu is not merely a king. In the eyes of his people, he is a living deity walking among mortals. Gods do not die, they transition, and Khufu needs somewhere to spend eternity, somewhere worthy. His eternal home must be impenetrable. Thieves will come. They always do. He needs a fortress. His father Sneferu built pyramids. Good ones. But look closely. The angles are wrong. The lines wobble. Khufu looks at his father's work and thinks one thing: I can do better. I will do better. He wants a project so audacious it will unite every Egyptian in a single obsessive national purpose. The old pharaoh is dead. The nation mourns. Khufu will give them something to believe in again. But ambition without resources is just daydreaming. This project requires wealth beyond imagination. Egypt has it. The secret is the Nile. That river is not just water, it is the engine of an empire. Every year the Nile floods. Every year it dumps rich black soil across the valley, free fertilizer. That soil grows surplus grain. Surplus grain feeds workers. Fed workers build things. Empires run on bread. The grain also feeds soldiers. Egyptian soldiers are well-equipped, well-trained, and absolutely merciless in battle. Those soldiers march into neighboring kingdoms and return with gold, slaves, and anything else worth taking. Khufu has more money than any human being in history. He can afford to dream big. But money alone builds nothing. Khufu needs a genius. He needs the smartest engineer alive. Enter Hemiunu, the pharaoh's half-brother, a man born into royalty and trained to reshape the world. Hemiunu learned mathematics before he could walk, astronomy before adolescence, construction before his beard came in. He will not copy his father's pyramids. He will make them look like amateur hour. Watch. His design is a quantum leap, more complex, more precise, more ambitious than anything ever attempted before. The core will be solid limestone, millions of blocks, stacked with precision that defies modern explanation. Inside this artificial mountain, Hemiunu hides 3 burial chambers connected by passages designed to confuse and trap. Chamber 1 sits underground. Insurance. If Khufu dies early, they have somewhere to stash the body. Chamber 2 hides behind false walls. Misdirection. When the robbers come, they will find nothing but stone. But the 3rd chamber is the prize. And the path there is the Grand Gallery. Breathtaking. The Grand Gallery soars 9 meters high. Corbelled ceilings, the kind of architecture that makes engineers weep. The king's chamber at the top is Hemiunu's flex, his masterpiece, his middle finger to physics. He builds it from pink granite, not local stone. Granite quarried 800 kilometers away in Aswan. The blocks fit so precisely you cannot slide a razor blade between them, not a credit card. A razor. Inside sits a granite sarcophagus. Khufu's mummified body will rest here. Forever. That is the plan. When the interior is done, workers encase everything in white Tura limestone, smooth as polished marble. In sunlight, it blazes like a second sun. In moonlight, it glows like something not of this world. At the peak, a golden capstone, the pyramidion, a beacon visible for miles in every direction. When it is finished, nothing on earth will compare. Khufu will have his eternal home. Mission accomplished. Let us talk numbers. Because the specifications of this thing are genuinely insane. Prepare yourself. 2.3 million stone blocks. Let that sink in. Million. Each one cut, moved, and placed. Some blocks weigh 50 metric tons. That is heavier than an Abrams tank. Significantly heavier, actually. Combined, This pyramid is one of the heaviest objects human beings have ever created. Period. The base covers the area of 7 Manhattan city blocks. You could lose a small town in there. That enormous base deviates from perfectly level by less than 1 inch. 1 inch, across 13 acres. The 4 sides point precisely to true north, south, east, and west. Accurate to fractions of a degree. They achieved this thousands of years before the magnetic compass existed. Think about that for a moment. Original height, 147 meters. That is a 40-story skyscraper. In 2500 BCE, made of rocks. Each face slopes at exactly 51.9 degrees. Not approximately. Exactly. All 4 sides. Identical. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Nobody alive knows exactly how they built this. Nobody. We have theories. Hemiunu faced a brutal deadline. Khufu was mortal. The pyramid had to be ready before the pharaoh died. The math said 20 years. 20 years to stack millions of blocks higher than any building on Earth. He needed 25,000 workers, not slaves, workers, fed, housed, and organized with military precision. That is roughly 2.5% of Egypt's entire population. Everyone knew someone on that site. A nationwide recruitment drive began. From the Delta to the Cataracts, workers marched toward Giza. Scholars have argued about the construction methods for centuries. Literally centuries. The debate is vicious. New evidence surfaces constantly. Sometimes it supports old theories. Sometimes it blows them apart. The mystery deepens. Some breakthroughs come from satellite technology. Others come from a researcher tripping over the right rock. Luck matters. We will examine 3 scientific theories. We are ranking them. Simple, clever, and absolutely wild. Let us begin. Theory 1 is the most obvious. External ramps. Just drag the blocks up a big pile of rubble. Put yourself in the worker's sandals. You need to lift a block heavier than a bus, 130 meters up. Your tools: papyrus rope, wooden sledges, and rubble. No wheels, no pulleys, no cranes, just you. The simplest solution? Build a ramp. Drag the block up the slope. Repeat 2 million times. You tie ropes around the stone. A team of workers pulls. Everyone heaves together. The block inches upward. As the pyramid grows, you extend the ramp. Higher and higher, layer by layer. Simple enough. No fancy technology required. Just human muscle, brutal coordination, and a willingness to work until you drop. This is the traditional theory. Egyptologists have backed it for decades. It is the textbook answer. Archaeological digs confirm ancient Egyptians used ramps constantly. Ramp fragments litter construction sites across Egypt. But here is the problem. Nobody agrees on what this ramp actually looked like. Size, shape, angle, because once you do the math, the simple ramp theory starts to collapse under its own weight. Moving a 2-ton block up a slope requires about 12 coordinated workers, 12 people per block. As the pyramid rises, your ramp must either get steeper or get longer. Pick your poison. A steep ramp is a death trap. Workers collapse from exhaustion. Blocks slide backward. People die. The skeletal evidence tells us these workers were ordinary people, farmers, laborers, not Olympic athletes. Many of them died before 40. Their bones show stress fractures, arthritis, crushed vertebrae. This work killed people. Engineers calculate the maximum practical incline at 8%. Anything steeper and the human body fails. At 8% grade, reaching 147 meters requires a ramp over 1 kilometer long. 1 kilometer of solid construction material just to reach the top, and that is the minimum. Such a ramp would require millions of tons of material. The logistics become their own engineering nightmare. Some calculations suggest the ramp would need 3 times more volume than the pyramid itself. 3 times. Here is the kicker. Archaeologists have never found remains of such a ramp, anywhere near Giza. Nothing. Building that ramp would take thousands of workers several decades. Decades of construction before construction could begin. Khufu did not have decades. He was mortal. He was aging. The clock was ticking. But wait. There is a clever variation. What if the ramp wrapped around the pyramid itself? Picture a corkscrew ramp spiraling upward along the outer faces. like a mountain road winding to a summit. Every time the pyramid grows taller, the spiral grows with it. Elegant, self-extending, efficient. Eventually, the ramp becomes part of the pyramid itself. The material is absorbed into the structure. This would explain the missing ramp mystery. The ramp is not missing. It is right there, incorporated. Beautiful theory. One problem: it creates an entirely new engineering impossibility. Let me explain. The pyramid faces must maintain exactly 51.9 degrees from base to peak. No deviation, zero. Surveyors needed constant sightlines to measure the edges. One mistake at the bottom means disaster at the top. A few centimeters off at the base could mean several meters off at the summit. Catastrophic. A spiral ramp wrapping around the pyramid would block those sightlines completely. Total obstruction. Without sightlines, there is no way to verify the pyramid is rising straight. You would be building blind. The Great Pyramid is not crooked. It is almost mathematically perfect. So the spiral ramp theory fails. This brings us to theory 2, and it comes from the most unlikely source imaginable. Late 1990s. France. An engineer named Henri Houdin is watching a documentary about pyramids. The narrator explains the external ramp theory. Henri stares at the television. Something is wrong here. His engineering brain will not accept the logistics. The numbers do not work. There has to be another way. He calls his son Jean-Pierre, an architect. What do you make of this pyramid nonsense? They start talking. Jean-Pierre becomes obsessed. For years, he puzzles over the problem. It consumes him. He cannot let go. Here is the remarkable part. He develops his theory without ever visiting Egypt, without any formal Egyptology training. When he finally presents to the academic establishment, they dismiss him. Outsider, amateur, not one of us. Egyptology is a notoriously insular field. They guard their territory. They do not welcome French architects with big ideas. But Houdin's theory refuses to die, because it actually solves problems that have tortured researchers for generations. He did something the academics never tried. He put himself in Hemiunu's shoes. He thought like a builder. His theory explains how 50-ton granite beams reached the king's chamber without 600 workers hauling in unison. Here is the Houdin theory. Hemiunu did use an external ramp, but only for the first 60 meters. And it was not made of rubble. It was made of limestone blocks, the same blocks destined for the pyramid. When the ramp was no longer needed, workers dismantled it and used those blocks for the upper layers. This is why archaeologists never found ramp remains. The ramp is not missing. You are looking at it. The ramp did not disappear. It was promoted. It became part of the pyramid itself. Genius. The short external ramp handled the lower courses, the widest, heaviest layers, 80% of the total mass. It also hauled the granite beams for the king's chamber. Those 50-ton monsters needed serious infrastructure. But moving 50 tons with hundreds of workers crammed in tight spaces is logistically nightmarish. Houdin found another way. He believes Hemiunu used the Grand Gallery as a counterweight system, a mechanical advantage built into the pyramid. The Grand Gallery would have been constructed opposite the external ramp. Its angle, its length, are not accidents. That 46-meter corridor at that specific slope could leverage counterweights to multiply human pulling power. The Grand Gallery has baffled archaeologists for generations. Why is it so tall, so narrow, so strange? Why are there mysterious stone benches running along both walls? They serve no obvious burial purpose. Houdin says those benches are railroad tracks. Wooden carts on rollers would have run along them. The Egyptians had no wheels, but they understood rollers. They understood friction. They were not primitive. Picture it. A massive granite block sits at the bottom of the external ramp. Ropes connect it to trolley carts. Those trolley carts, loaded with heavy stone blocks, sit at the top of the Grand Gallery. Ready to drop. Release the carts. They roll downward. The granite block rises upward. Gravitational trade, energy exchange, physics. It works like an elevator counterweight. The descending mass pulls the ascending mass. Brilliant mechanical engineering. There is physical evidence. The Grand Gallery walls show scuff marks, impact damage, repeated heavy contact. Something heavy was moving through that corridor. Once the granite beams were in place, the external ramp had served its purpose. The pyramid was now too tall for external ramps to be practical. A new strategy was required. Workers dismantled the external ramp, block by block. Those limestone pieces were recycled upward, nothing wasted. The upper pyramid would be built from the inside out, using an internal ramp hidden within the structure. Houdin proposes a ramp spiraling upward inside the pyramid's mass, like the driveway in a parking garage. This internal ramp rises at a 7% grade, gentle enough for exhausted workers dragging heavy loads. The ramp runs straight along one side, hits the corner, turns 90 degrees, continues up the next side. It zigzags upward, flight after flight, corner after corner, getting shorter as the pyramid narrows toward the peak. Total length, over 1 kilometer of internal ramp, hidden inside the pyramid, invisible from outside. Moving blocks up the straight sections is manageable. Sledges on smooth limestone, hard work, but doable. The corners are the problem. How do you pivot a multi-ton block 90 degrees in a cramped tunnel? Houdin calculated the ramp could not exceed 3 meters wide. Structural necessity. Wider and the pyramid weakens. Workers need space to stand while they rotate the blocks. They need room to breathe, to maneuver. He proposes open notches at each corner. Small chambers where workers could pivot blocks and rest. These notches would also provide ventilation and light. Brief respite in the suffocating darkness. Small mercies. Here is where theory meets evidence. There is a notch, 83 meters up, exactly where Houdin predicted. An unexplained architectural feature matching the theoretical model. Coincidence? Perhaps. But Houdin does not believe in coincidence. His theory elegantly solves the two biggest mysteries: how blocks reached the top, how beams moved without armies. 2-ton blocks ascending without kilometer-long external ramps. The internal ramp makes it possible. The math works. 50-ton beams rising without 600 haulers. The Grand Gallery counterweight system explains the impossible. Mechanical advantage. Critics call the theory over-engineered, too complex, too elaborate. Ancient people used simple solutions, right? The internal ramp would need careful routing to avoid the burial chambers. Precise planning, no margin for error. Some scholars wave it away. External ramps are simpler. Simpler is better. Case closed. Move along. But look at Egyptian craftsmanship. Look at the precision of the joints, the perfection of the angles. These people were not primitive. Why would they use crude methods for their most important project ever? This brings us to theory 3, and this one is going to sound absolutely insane. Bear with me. In 2024, headlines screamed that the pyramid mystery was finally solved. New evidence had emerged. The key was not ramps or counterweights. The key was the Nile, water, the source of Egyptian power. Today, the Giza Plateau is a strip of baking desert. The Nile is kilometers away, bone dry. The nearest water is a distant ribbon of green. Between the pyramids and the river, nothing but sand. But 46 centuries ago, this landscape looked completely different. Unrecognizably different. Water was everywhere. A 2024 study combined satellite radar with deep soil core samples. They were looking for ghosts. What they found was a river branch, a lost arm of the Nile, dead for millennia. This ancient waterway flowed directly past the pyramid construction sites, right there, accessible, convenient. Builders did not drag stones across endless desert. They floated them on barges, directly to the site. A 2-ton block on a barge is manageable. A 2-ton block dragged through sand is a death sentence. But floating stones horizontally only solves half the problem. You still need to lift them vertically. 147 meters. Another 2024 study proposed something radical, something that sounds like science fiction. Hydraulic elevators. The researchers suggest ancient Egyptians used water pressure to lift stones. Water-powered vertical transport, inside the pyramid. Water elevators, in a pyramid, built 46 centuries ago. I told you this would sound insane. The idea is not entirely new. Fringe theorists have proposed it before. Mainstream Egyptologists laughed them off. Pyramidiots, they called them. Enthusiastic amateurs with wild imaginations and zero evidence. Easy to dismiss. Ignore them. The theories were fascinating but unsupported. No archaeological evidence, no physical proof. Just speculation dressed as science. But this new research team was different. Hydrologists, mechanical engineers, geographers, actual archaeologists, serious credentials. They found evidence at an earlier pyramid, a smaller one, suggesting water-powered lifts, floating platforms. Such a system could raise heavy stones with minimal human labor. Water does the work. Gravity provides the power. The system would capture rainfall and Nile floodwater, channel it into a reservoir, a dam, storage. Underground conduits would direct that water into a central vertical shaft, running up through the pyramid's axis. This shaft would function like the tube of a hydraulic lift. Water in, platform up, water out, platform down. A wooden platform floats on the water surface inside the shaft. The platform rises with the water level. Workers load stones onto the platform at ground level. Heavy stones. Stones that would kill men on ramps. Then they open valves. Water floods into the shaft from the reservoir. The level rises. The platform ascends. More water means higher levels. The platform rises. The stone rises with it. No pulling, no hauling, just physics. To bring the platform down, you drain water through valves at the bottom. The level drops. Controlled descent. The researchers demonstrated the system could reach at least 17 meters. Not enough for Khufu, but a start. Workers would unload stones at the top and build outward from the center, layer by layer, inside out. This might explain why later pyramids are smaller. A climate theory. Interesting. Possibly terrifying. Egypt's climate dried over centuries. Less rain, lower floods, not enough water to power the hydraulic lifts. Without water, you fall back to human muscle. Human muscle has limits. Pyramids get smaller. Ambition dies. Beautiful theory. But does it hold water? Most experts are skeptical, very skeptical, professionally dismissive. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's most famous archaeologist, says it is completely wrong. Emphatically wrong. Dead wrong. The pyramid studied is structurally different from Khufu's. Smaller stones, different design, apples and oranges. Scaling up the system to lift 50-ton blocks 147 meters would require infrastructure we have never found. No central shaft has been discovered in the Great Pyramid, no conduit system, no evidence whatsoever. Ramps, however, appear everywhere in Egyptian archaeology. Fragments, remains, references. Ramps are proven technology. Most researchers still believe some form of ramp was the primary method. The debate continues. In 2017, physicists fired cosmic rays through the pyramid. Muon detection. Particle physics meets archaeology. They found a void, a big empty space, previously unknown, hidden inside the stone mass. Waiting, some archaeologists shrug. Structural feature. Prevents the chambers below from collapsing. Engineering, not mystery. Move along. Others, including Hawass, think differently. That void could be Khufu's real burial chamber. Still sealed, still waiting. The Great Pyramid keeps its secrets. 46 centuries of questions. And we still do not have the answers. If you found this perspective valuable, consider subscribing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. Thank you for watching.